As chairman of this subcommittee, with jurisdiction over amateur athletics, I welcome all of you to today's hearing. It's entitled Name, Image, Likeness, the State of Intercollegiate Athletic Compensation. The expectation or hope is that we might limit ourselves to that type of conversation, but I have no control over my colleagues or necessarily what the witnesses will say that may take us a little broader in scope. I absolutely look forward to hearing from our witnesses. I'm appreciative of all of them being here, but especially the chancellor of my alma mater, the University of Kansas, the president of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the commissioner for Big 12, and two former student athletes. In my home state, we have a rich history of college athletics. The University of Kansas won 14 straight Big 12 men's basketball titles, and the women's soccer team just won their first Big 12 title last year. In my hometown of Manhattan, Bill Snyder revolutionized college football at Kansas State University, a legacy that has been continued by the current coach, Chris Kleiman, and athletic director, Gene Taylor. And who can forget Wichita State's Cinderella run at the NCAA men's basketball tournament in 2013. Kansas City was the national headquarters for the NCAA for 45 years before moving to Indianapolis. Senator Young is not here, but I would remind the NCAA we would welcome them back to Kansas City at any time. While Division I schools often come to mind, in my view, we cannot lose sight over the 1,000 colleges and universities across 3 divisions included in the NCAA. In Kansas, we have impressive Division II athletics at Fort Hays State, Pitt State, who won 4 D2 titles, most recently in 2011, Emporia State, Newman, and Washburn. I hope that in this conversation that those schools and their athletes are not forgotten. Altogether, there are nearly 500,000 student athletes that compete in 24 different sports. The NCAA's considerable financial restrictions tied to amateur athletics eligibility has gained national media attention and heated debate in recent years. Specifically, how student athletes are currently restricted from profiting from their name, image, or likeness to supplement the current scholarships and related benefits they receive. These debates have resulted in state legislatures taking their own actions. In California, the Fair Pay to Play Act was signed into law last September and will prohibit California universities and colleges from preventing their student athletes from gaining compensation for the use of their name, image, or likeness from third parties. Coming into effect in 2023, the law will also allow student athletes from California, to hire agents and other representation. Following suit, legislation has been introduced in over 20 other states, with more expected to follow, raising concerns of the ability of nationwide organizations to function within a system of differing state laws and provisions. Last May, the NCAA began to take steps to address the debate around student athletes potentially profiting from their name, image, and likeness by appointing a working group to examine potential modifications that still allow a clear demarcation between professional and amateur athletics and ensure that they are still aligned with the general student body. The working group is expected to issue recommendations later this year, with new rules scheduled to be implemented in 2021. Understanding how state and federal laws and regulations on name, image, and likeness of student athletes would affect the existing intercollegiate athletic system is critical in shaping Congress's efforts on this issue. Some of the complexities surrounding this issue include the use of third-party agents, the possible elimination of athletic programs, current definition of amateurism, and allowable incentives made available to today's college athletes. As we will hear today, college athletics teaches young men and women many values and skills that serve them throughout their life. But the most important aspect is that they are first a student athlete. NCAA student athletes have considerably higher graduation rates than non-athletes, which is significant because less than 2% of student athletes go on to become professional athletes. It is important that actions taken by Congress do not harm the education, health, and well-being of student athletes. Joining us today to provide a variety of different perspectives on this issue is Mr. Bob Bowlesby, Commissioner of the Big 12 Conference, Dr. Mark Emmert, President of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, Dr. Douglas Girod, Chancellor of the University of Kansas, Mr. Ramogi Huma, Executive Director of the National College Players Association and former UCLA football student athlete, and Mr. Kendall Spencer, Chair of the NCAA's Student Athlete Advisory Committee and former University of New Mexico track student athlete. We're also honored to be joined by former Ohio State University football student athlete and U.S. Congressman representing the 16th District of Ohio, Anthony Gonzalez. The Congressman's background and active advocacy for this issue is highly valued by this subcommittee, and I thank him for his willingness to join us today and present an opening statement. With the conclusion of my opening statement, I turn to the ranking member, Senator Blumenthal, for his.